Hey YouTube, Madam Roy back again. Well, it was sale day again at the thrift store, and again, usually I don't find much of anything. Well, today was very different. As you know, most of you guys know, today everything is 25% off, and when I went in there, as usual, I didn't see much of anything, so I saw one of my favorite processing ladies, and we got to talking for a few minutes. Then I walked away to look at some of the bric-a-brac stuff. Sometimes I find little mini DV tapes in that section. Well, about a minute after that, I hear a voice from across the store. So I go over to see what's happening, and she's like, the lady from the other lady in the back just put a couple laptops out. So I ran back over to where they keep them on the table, and sure enough, there were two laptops sitting there. And I almost didn't get any of them because another gentleman had already gotten to him, but he was only interested in the IBM ThinkPad that was up there. So while I was looking at that, I snagged this little beauty right here. I would have gotten the ThinkPad too because he actually wound up putting that down after a minute or two, but when I plugged that in, I noticed that it must have been a government system, and it was BIOS locked. And not only BIOS locked, it was actually locked from the BIOS and the OS, and I know those can be very difficult to break. Plus, it was an older system. It was a Celeron D processor running Windows XP, so kind of figured it wasn't worth my time. But this one definitely is. And what I have here is a Toshiba. You can see that the thrift store marked it for $12.98, and they marked it as parts only. Now, the reason they did that with this particular laptop was it did not have the power cord with it, and there was no way for them to test it, so it was stone dead. Now, what I've done, I haven't done anything with this system other than plug in an extra power cord that I had. Actually, this one is from my Gateway computer. You can see that it says Gateway light on, but they just happen to use the same power cords. If this winds up working later on, somewhere in my closet I do have the proper Toshiba power adapter for this, but I couldn't find it right now. So let's go ahead and see what this laptop actually has to offer. On the front here, you can see you have the, if this will focus, the Wi-Fi on and off switch right here. You have your SD / MMC memory card reader, audio out, audio in, so headphone microphone, and then Toshiba's famous volume wheel. I think they're the only ones that still used it as late as this laptop. And I'm guessing this is from around 2008 or 2009, probably more like 2009. Now, if we go to the side here, you can see you have one USB port, and then a dual layer, I'm assuming a dual layer DVD burner drive. Now, something interesting about these laptop DVD burner drives, rarely do they ever say they're dual layer, especially on these older Toshibas, but I've noticed that they will still burn dual layer discs. We have the power port right there in good shape, not loose at all. And then right there is your Kensington lock port. And as usual, usually on the back, I found this kind of interesting. Usually on the back of these Toshiba laptops, you don't find anything, but this one actually has a good old, what looks like a 56K modem in it, which I kind of found interesting. The person that owned this particular laptop must have ordered that custom from Toshiba, because for a laptop, even if a laptop as new as this, I've never seen a modem actually installed. Go ahead and turn it around to the other side here. And as you can see on here, we have a PC card slot. I'm assuming it's an express card slot, but I can't really get in there right now to see. We have two more USB 2.0 ports. Your Ethernet port right there, which of course most laptops nowadays will have. Just a vent, cooling vent, so I'm assuming the CPU is probably right behind that somewhere. And lastly on here, you have your standard VGA out. And somebody put these stickers on here, which I'm hoping I can get off. One of them says Warning, Rocksmith, explicit content. And the other one is Just Doobit. Must have something to do with a clothing line. Hopefully I can get those off. I'm pretty sure I can. Now, I have not tested this laptop at all. Other than just plugging it in and seeing that the lights come on. So let's go ahead and open it up. And as you can see, it's a little dirty. You know, it's got some muck there, and I will clean that off. But one thing I found kind of interesting about this is there's hardly any wear on any of the surfaces. Like, if you notice, this is just dirt. This will clean right off. There's still a good surface on the touchpad and the buttons. And if you look on the space bar, which is normally very heavily worn, there's just a slight shiny spot right there. And if you look on anywhere else on this keyboard, like the Enter key, which is used a lot, there's literally no wear. There's maybe just a little bit on the A and the S key, which is very common because, let's face it, those are very much used keys. And if you're typing the way you're supposed to, you're pretty much laying your hands on the ASDF and the HGKL. So very common to have a little bit of wear on those. Up here you have your power button. And then your different media keys. This is mute. A music button probably brings you into your default player, whether it be like media player, VLC, something like that. Then your play, pause, stop, rewind, and forward buttons. This one has the speakers up here. And I did have a model like this Toshiba where the speakers are up there instead of being in the front. And, you know, they don't have quite as good a sound, but you know what? With a laptop, you can't expect much anyway. Screen, you can see me. Hey, everybody. Screen is a 15.4 inch, I believe, probably high def wide screen. And unlike my Gateway, this one does have a webcam. I don't know if it's HD or not, but you know, I've been wanting a laptop with a webcam, so I have high hopes for this. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and try to power this beast on. Again, other than plugging in, I have not done anything with this, so let's go ahead and give it a try. Smoke test. Something's coming up. Could try to get into the BIOS. Yeah, there we are. Is it 1140? It's close. Time's about 5 minutes off, but not too bad. So this is a Turion X2 dual core, model RM70, running at 2 gigahertz. It looks like there is a hard drive in this. I'll see what that is, with 2 gigabytes of memory installed. Let's go ahead and see if we can figure out. I believe that's a 250 gigabyte hard drive. I looked the specs on this up online earlier, and that's what they said most of them came with. So go ahead and look. This is the advanced options. Dynamic CPU frequency. This basically controls how fast the CPU goes. Like when you're not using a lot of bandwidth or a lot of data, it'll slow down the CPU and save you on battery life. Enable the pointing devices, the Wi-Fi, the wake up from the local area network. Critical battery wake up basically tells you your battery is about to die. Legacy USB, wake on keyboard, and then the SATA mode. Display, we just have the power on display. You can do auto select or LCD analog. We're going to keep it on the auto select because that's all we really need. The security, which is kind of standard. It's just you never want to put a password in a computer because that's what they did with that other ThinkPad, and that was a disaster. I don't know if anybody will ever get that off. And here's the boot. Let me go in and see if let me go in and see real quick. You can see you got the DVD burner drive. That's number 3, and then number 1 is the hard drive. We're actually going to be changing that. I'm going to change it to boot from the CD first. So let's do that. We hit F7 and F8. So I'm going to go to the third one, which is the CD. Go ahead and hit F7. We'll hit F8 to bring that up. There. Now you see that number 1 is the CD and number 2 is the hard drive. It's interesting. It doesn't actually tell me how big the hard drive is here, But I'll look that up online and see if I can get some information. So let's go ahead and try and boot this. We'll see if there's any operating systems on there. See if people did what they were supposed to do and cleaned off their information. And I'm guessing this is probably running Windows Vista. Okay. Well, it looks like we have an issue with the boot manager, which either means somebody erases hard drives, they were good and erased everything on there, or it could mean that the hard drive is corrupted in some way. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and stop the video. I'm going to run a couple of diagnostics on it. Alright, I'm about to do the hard drive test on here, and because this is a Toshiba drive from around 2008-2009, that means it's probably made by Hitachi, so the correct scanner tool to use for that is Hitachi's drive fitness test. So I'll agree to the terms. Hopefully it'll find the drive, and it did. And it is a 250 gigabyte drive like I kind of thought it was. So go ahead and hit, is this the correct one? Yes. And I'm going to choose an advanced test and hit S for start. And we'll go ahead and see if it passes the initial test. Right now it's just testing the interface, making sure all the circuit boards on the hard drive are functioning properly. Okay, now it's analyzing smart, which that all passed. And now we're going to go ahead and analyze the media. And I can tell right away that I think we do have a problem with this drive, because you should see these numbers moving and they are stagnant. So I'm thinking we probably have a bad hard drive, which is actually okay because I have a couple extra hard drives I can use. I have I think another 120. It's not quite as big, but you know, it's good enough for what I need with this computer. So I'm going to let this work through and see if it comes up with an error. So I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Just as I thought, a bad hard drive. Problem was detected on a Hitachi disk drive, so I'm going to go through my collection and see what I have to try to put in. Here you can see the old hard drive, and it was sitting right in here. It's this Toshiba, which we now know is bad, so I'm going to try a couple of these. I have a 320 gigabyte Seagate. I have a 180 or 160 gigabyte Fujitsu. And then I also have a 100 and I believe there's another 160 Hitachi. So we're going to go ahead and try these. Alright, I put the 320 in there and I'm using the screwdriver to hold it in place. Go ahead and plug the power back in here. And let's see what happens with this drive. Alright, so I loaded into C-Tools and you can see it found that Seagate drive. And it said the smart has not been tripped. Now, I remember testing this drive once before and I had a few issues with it, but I think that may have been the motherboard on my other laptop, so we're going to give this another try. Hit the long test, and we'll let that work and see if this does in fact wind up being a good hard drive. Alright, so it appears I have a problem with every one of those drives. Each one of them has a bad sector or two, but this one looks like to be the best, and it's that Seagate ST9320325AS 320 gigabyte hard drive. So what I'm going to try to do right now is do a low-level format on it. I don't know if it'll actually let me do that in here because it's not a Western Digital drive, but we're going to try it. Okay, so we're going to go to right to zeros, start, and yes, it's going to ask me, I need to close any other open programs, which I don't have, so I'll click OK. One or more partitions exist on the drive. Do I really want to erase them? Yes, because this was not my drive. And then the third time, data will be erased and lost for the selected drive. Are you sure? Yes. Now we're going to do a full erase, which is going to take some time, and click OK. We're going to let that run through, and we'll see if we have any bad sectors when this is over. Sometimes these full low-level formats, even on the newer drives, fix some basic problems. So we'll let that go through. It looks like it'll take about an hour and a half, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Alright, so we got 30 seconds or so left on this low-level format. I do want to note that if this computer winds up working well, you know, no other issues with it, that I probably will go ahead and buy a better hard drive. But for now, I just want to try and get this 360 gigabyte drive going. So let's do a countdown. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, come on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and here we go. Test completed successfully, or in this case, the format completed successfully. So click close, and it looks like it works. So what I'm going to do now is run an extended test, and if that passes, I'll go ahead and install Windows 7. Well, it looks like this hard drive has failed as well, so at this point I'm going to have to just try to find another SATA drive. Unfortunately, none of the drives I have worked out, so I'm not sure if I'm going to upload this as an epic fail, or I'm just going to wait until I get a different drive. We'll have to see. Well, everybody, it's the next day, and by looking at this bag, you probably guessed what I had to do for this laptop. That's right. I bit the bullet and went to Best Buy and just bought a new hard drive. I did get it on sale, so it was a fairly good buy. What I bought is a Seagate 500 gigabyte laptop SATA drive. And I can see if I can show you guys the receipt here. Normally, I think this drive sells for $60. But I got it on special for $54.99 if this camera will focus. There you go. So total was $58.28 after tax. So still not too bad. So what I'm going to do is put this hard drive in the laptop and load up Windows 7. And once that's done, I should have a perfectly good working Toshiba satellite laptop for under $70. Before I install it, I thought I'd give you guys a quick look at the actual hard drive. It's a Seagate Momentus model ST500LM012, and it is a 500 gigabyte hard drive. Oddly enough, though, nowhere in the package does it say what the speed is. I'm guessing it's a 5400 RPM drive, but I'll have to look up online and see what it's actually rated at. Looks like a decent build, very typical of the other drives I had. Of course, you got your two front SATA ports on there. I'm going to go ahead and install this hard drive. Alright, we got the new hard drive installed. Go ahead and plug the power back in. And let's go ahead and boot it up. I'm going to try to go right into the BIOS and see if it shows up, the hard drive shows up, that is. Okay, and there we go. You've seen the hard drive right there. So that's definitely a good sign. Let's go ahead and adjust this real quick. I want the CD drive to boot first, the USB, and then the hard drive. So go ahead and save the changes, and I'm going to go ahead and install the operating system, and then I'll show you guys the finished product. Well, guys, I am really getting frustrated with this laptop. I went back to Best Buy because the first hard drive they sold me was giving me a temperature error. In other words, it was reading that it had been over 70 degrees Celsius. So I went back and bought another hard drive there, and guess what? This one was doing the same thing. I thought that was kind of odd, so I hooked this up to my main rig and ran a diagnostic, and this hard drive tested perfectly fine. So my conclusion is there's something wrong with the hardware of this computer. Now, the last thing I'm going to try before giving up on this is I downloaded to a CD the latest BIOS revision. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And I'm not even sure which BIOS is installed in this computer. The latest revision for this laptop is version 1.80. Now, we're going to go ahead and boot this up. I'm going to go in and see exactly what version of the BIOS is in there. But yeah, this is getting really frustrating. Wow. And that might be part of the problem. You can see right there it's running 1.30. That is the oldest version of the BIOS available for this. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and boot off the CD. We're going to go ahead and load this BIOS program. And I'll turn the light out for you guys so you can see a little better. And hopefully this works. If this doesn't work, guys, unfortunately this is going to be an epic fail, because that means that there is something wrong, most likely with the motherboard, which will really stink. But you know what? It is what it is. When you buy computers from thrift stores, that's what you have to contend with sometimes. It might even be a problem with the SATA port on the motherboard itself. It looks like it's frozen, but as you can see, the drive itself has some activity, so go ahead and let it work for a minute. Alright, reburn the disk, and we're going to give this one more try. I'm still not sure why that first disk didn't work, but we'll see. And it looks like it's just doing the same thing as before. Alright. Tell you what, guys. If I get this BIOS to flash, then I'll go ahead and give you guys an update. Well, I finally got it. The BIOS is updating from 1.3 to 1.8. Well, everybody, it's like at least we have some success. I did, before I put the Windows 7 ISO, which I'm actually running off this 32 gigabyte PNY flash drive in, I did check Seagate tools again after the BIOS update, or C-tools, and it is still showing that same over temp error, but at least this is letting me get a little bit further. So I think at this point I'm just going to try and do the Windows installation, and I'll kick it back once that's done and let you guys know how it goes. But for now, at least, looks like we might get some life out of this laptop. Well, everybody, as you can see, we have success. Oh, this has really been a bit of a chore. I'm sure this video is going to run over an hour. I hope you guys kind of enjoy this. Let me know in the comments. But tell you what I did to finally get this working. After I did the BIOS update, I was still getting the same blue screen whenever I tried to install Windows 7 or any operating system. The way I wound up fixing it was I unplugged the took the battery out, unplugged it, and I did a power drain. I held the power button for 30 seconds. Now what this does is it drains any residual power from the capacitors. And I think what was actually happening is, because before I tried so many old drives that were not good, I think the BIOS kind of got stuck in a loop, thinking that the new hard drive I put in was really one of the old ones. But as soon as I did that and the BIOS update, you can see we definitely have a successful installation here. Now, I haven't loaded any of the drivers yet, so I don't think it's really going to show too much. It appears the video driver's working. But there you go. And I know some of you guys are going to harp on me for installing the 64-bit version with only 2 gigabytes of RAM. Don't worry about that. As soon as I get a little extra money, I'm going to bump this up to at least 3, maybe even 4. Well, I'm going to end the video here because, let's face it, this is going to be long enough. Hope you guys enjoyed this adventure with me. Please remember to like and subscribe. And as always, have a blessed day, everybody.